because...
Hello, Utah Dota Group.
Oh, hi, Utah Dota.
Dota.
Yeah, I'm here with your friend Kevin. I wish you guys were all here.
Hello.
What's up, Demon here?
Hi, Utah.
Hello, Utah Dota.
Yes.
I don't even know where Utah is.
Hey guys, how's it going? This is Zero2Infinity from Crowd Control.
And this is Happy, also from Crowd Control.
And today we are bringing to you episode 2 of MMR Theory. And today's subject will be mid-lane mechanics, and Happy will actually be covering the focus topics that we're going over today.
All right, so we'll be going over 3 topics. 1 will be creep blocking. 2 will be animations, which will include spell animations, animation canceling, and auto attack animations. And the 3rd subject will be lane movement.
Perfect, so let's get this started. So the first topic we were talking about is creep blocking, and creep blocking is extremely important when you're dealing with lane momentum, because when you're creep blocking itself, it actually helps you pull the creeps back towards this edge here, and it actually makes it much safer for you to last hit. There's a couple of other things too that actually makes creep blocking extremely effective, and Happy's going to go over that.
All right, so what creep blocking, what you want to do is you want to center. I don't know, are you on my player perspective? What you want to do is center your camera, and you're going to make minuscule movements back and forth like this to create like creeps moving back and forth in the same direction. And the ideal place to creep block to is you want to create a line right over on the edge of the hill here. And that's going to be the key place you want to block to, because the enemy won't be able to see you, because you'll have uphill fog advantage, which gives you auto attack advantage because they have a miss chance going uphill, and it gives you just vision advantage for you to cast spells and auto attack from places that they can't see.
So what we're going to do here is actually watch Happy start his initial creep block, and notice that we're going to he's actually keeping the camera centered, as you guys can tell right here, and we're going to actually see him weave back and forth. And we actually have the bots set on easy, because on easy bots you don't really see them do much creep blocking, and we're really going to show the effect of how much creep blocking does for the lane momentum to push the creeps back towards your own tower.
In 3, 2.
Alright, so the creeps are spawning. I'm going to hold. Radiant is a little awkward because, as you can see, you're going to have that awkward creep on the side, but what you're really going to do is just like walk back and forth and try to make them pause like that. Catch as many as you can. The hardest is when they double up, like you saw just barely there. But if you can creep block correctly here, and I'm going to let him walk over to the edge here, the other mid laner would have to stand right about in these positions and attack uphill, where they will have a miss percentage when they try to go for last hits. I will have a better vantage point to hit them from. I also, just mostly for the auto attack advantage. In this situation, their creeps can see me uphill, but the whole idea is that they wouldn't be able to see you going attacking uphill compared to theirs. And so the whole idea is to keep the first 2 or 3 waves centered at this position where you will have an advantage being uphill where they have to stay downhill.
Yeah, and you can already see right here, most of the creeps are actually right on the edge of Happy's cliff. And this is actually going to give him a huge advantage, especially if you're going against ranged characters. As he mentioned earlier, when you are fighting uphill, ranged characters basically have a 25% chance to miss. So it's actually going to keep you able to harass them much easier. And on top of that, it makes it so your sustaining items like tangos or salves last a lot longer, so you're able to get those early level 6s sooner and not have to run back and forth to the fountain.
So this next block is going to be called the Arteezy block, famously known for most Western mid laners to do it. And it's done only on the Radiant side for mid lane, because the creeps will almost always split around the tower where I'm standing when they first spawn. So when you start blocking out here, you'll catch like 3 creeps, 2 melee and the ranged over here, and 1 melee creep will be off on this side, just like awkwardly walking over there. So in order to avoid that, you're going to stand at a particular position to create a inefficient pathing for when they initially spawn, and you'll be directing them towards the other side of the tower that I'm standing on. So how to pull this off is, what you're going to do is when you like hover over my character, a green circle should appear under your character. This is the size of your hero. All heroes have like a certain size circle, but the key thing here is lining up the bottom part of that circle with that tile right there. You see, like if you, I don't know, if Zero2Infinity, can you hover over my queen?
Yes.
And the bottom of that circle should just barely be like touch the bottom of that particular tile, standing at this position will almost always guarantee all 4 creeps walking to the right side of the tower. And so right when they spawn, you move off to the side with them, and you can catch them very easily right here. And this is often called the Arteezy block or the Dendi block because they were the 2 players who first utilized it to great effect to make sure the Radiant blocking was better than the Dire block.
Nice. So as you can see right here, there's a lot of clicks going on back and forth, and the reason you do that is so that we have a little bit more micro steps. Otherwise, your character does a long movement to walk towards a certain path. When you do micro steps, it's basically making the character to do micro stops at every single position, and it forces a creep wave to actually move even slower than if you were to just walk in front of them. So a lot of popular tactics we see some players use, especially if you're a support hero like Crystal Maiden, who have a really slow move speed, is to walk directly in front of the creep wave. Happy, can you tell us why that might not necessarily be the most effective way of creep blocking?
So the reason why you want to move back and forth is that creeps are programmed to like get this fastest way around you. And if you select on a melee creep, you can see that it has 325 movement speed. There's only 2 heroes in the game that can match that move speed, and none of them are mid laners. And so what you want to do is make sure that you move back and forth to create inefficiency in the creep's pathing, and you abuse that in order to create a mid lane advantage.
So what we're going to do now is actually show you what creep blocking looks like from the Dire side. There's a couple different advantages of actually being from the Dire when you're doing creep blocks, because it's going to give you a little bit more better vision or better space to click per se to actually creep block itself. And we're actually going to be looking at this game again from Happy's perspective, so that way you guys can really see what's happening when he's doing this. As you can see already, he's actually having the camera centered on him, as we mentioned earlier when he was on the Radiant side, and we'll let Happy take it over from here.
Alright, well, without much further ado, since you guys have seen the Radiant side, let's start the Dire game.
So as you can see here, he's doing a lot of micro clicks, just as we mentioned. Again, that kind of causes your characters to do little micro steps at a time.
I missed it there. Rip.
Still
Whatever.
not too bad.
I got this. Saved!
So as you guys can see, that was actually a fairly decent creep block, even though one of the melee creeps went through. Because what's happening is we still actually see the Radiant creeps landing right on the edge of Happy's side. And this is, again, going to give him a nice advantage during the laning phase, because it's going to make it more difficult for, say, a ranged mid laner to hit him, because he's going to be uphill. He's also going to give Happy a more of a vision advantage as well, because if you are attacking from uphill, it means the the Radiant hero is not going to be able to see where your hero is. So if you're going against mids like Lina, who has a nice area of area damage like her Dragon Slave, or even DK with his Flame Strike, it makes it harder for them to kind of guess where you are, so that way it's harder for them to harass you.
So here's an easy way how you can just practice creep blocking. So I'm going to random here. Obviously, you're not going to be playing Sven much, but with cheats on, what you're going to do is you're going to type in -gold99999, and you're going to buy yourself a blink dagger, and you're going to type in -WTF, so that way you can have just no cooldown blinks. And what you're going to do is you're going to start with your creep block here. And
we're going to use the Arteezy block again to make sure that...
yes. Okay. And then what you're going to do is type -start game. The creeps will spawn. And that one, see, Arteezy block sometimes will bring that one in the far back, but that is much better than just having all of them move at the same pace. So what you do is you creep block to mid. And basically what you want to do is right around where you get to the tower, you'll see the other teams, and this one I blocked a little bit too far, but what you're going to do is you're going to blink back, spam your blink dagger, come back to this spot, and then start again. And since this one wasn't as good, sometimes what you can do is like leak a creep, just blink forward and catch it. So this is something that if you just practice a couple times, you know, maybe before you start playing your first game of the day, you're planning to play some mid today, go ahead, put yourself into a bot match, put on WTF, give yourself some cheats, and practice just creep blocking. So there's another way of just blink back to the base and start over. And if you practice this a couple of times, maybe within a week, you'll definitely see an improvement in your creep blocking mechanics.
Nice. And I think another thing too that's kind of cool that I don't feel people mention too often is if you do decide to let a creep through, it's actually a pretty good idea to have the range creep go first. And the reason for that is that when the range creep moves forward ahead of everything else, it's going to be the first creep that will be attacked by the enemy team's creeps as well. And since the range creep has the lowest amount of health, it's going to die the fastest, which naturally is going to make your side have less creeps to push the momentum forward. So it actually ends up pulling your lane closer to your tower, which will make it easier for you to last hit. And actually, again, going through the laning phase a lot easier.
All right, so those are ways you can go practice your creep block. Same thing with the dire side.
We're talking about our second topic here, which will be about attack animations and animation canceling. We're going to let Happy take over from here.
All right, so animation canceling is something that you see done in a lot of pro games, and like a lot of the time you want to copy it, but you just end up spamming a bunch of things that you don't quite know if they're helpful or not. How you want to use animations is a mind game to psych out your opponent and have them on the edge of not knowing whether or not you're going to release an attack for that last bit of CS. This generally becomes a big factor when that creep is within 2 hits of dying. So that means that your opponent will try to deny it from you while you're trying to last hit it. Those are the 2 hits, and whoever releases second at that point, there's about a half a second window on whoever releases second wins that fight. Past that window is going to be whoever releases it first to get that CS. So these are things that you'll just have to learn to play around. I choose Kunkka just because he's a melee person. He has a fairly easy time point at which he has a swing. One thing you can also focus on when you're thinking about auto attack is some heroes have a certain sound they play when they hit. So you can learn those timings just by a feeling of when the sound hits and when you release the A click button. And so we'll be showing off a little bit of that along with some blocking, and we'll see if we can try to get every single CS and as many denies as we can within the first 2 waves.
And here we go.
So another thing I want to cover too is with attack animation canceling, it actually allows you to basically trigger timing on getting that last hit at the last possible second. So a lot of times if you're right in front of the creep and you'll notice that you're hitting too early, you don't have to worry about just letting the attack go. You can actually press S on your keyboard and that'll actually stop the attack animation and pause it. So we're going to watch Happy actually pull this off right here, and you can see how he really takes advantage of it.
Oh, missed one there. Let it go too early. So sometimes you want to do things like right around this creep health is you want to like fake the enemy out and go for that little bit of CS.
So you can actually see, just as Happy mentioned, you can actually hear the sound of Kunkka's sword going back right before it comes down and hits a creep. So when he says the attack animation canceling, you'll hear the sword being swung back and forth a few times, and that's just Happy rapidly right-clicking and pressing S on the keyboard at the same time. So you can hear that multiple swing right there. So what we're going to do in this match here is I'm actually going to play against Happy. I'm not a very good mid laner. I'm actually around the 2k MMR, so I'm not the greatest, but Happy is about a 5k player. So we're really going to see the difference between how he can actually use his mid lane mechanics against me when it comes to attack canceling. So I'm going to pick a hero with a relatively easy last hit animation. Who do you think I should pick, Happy?
Pick whoever you want, but I think I would suggest for people who really want to practice it to play Shadow Fiend, because that's an animation that's hard to get used to. It's also one that is rewarding when you do play him mid to land that last hit. So okay. Shadow Fiend definitely is the one that you want to practice in order to get that satisfaction, as well as be able to so the SF is like 100% the skilled mid laner. Anyway, I bought a Wraith Band just to help me last hit.
Perfect. All right, so let's do this.
All right, so learn Necro Mastery, and we'll be on our way. Press start game whenever you want, and let's not creep block. Just to have like a pure CS game going.
Perfect. All right, so we got the game going here.
All right, start game.
I did. That's strange. I think I didn't type it right. Start game, no spaces, right?
It's dash start game. There we go.
All right.
It's the perfect time to start a new collection.
So here, I'll try to psych out Kevin with a couple auto attack animations to try to get him to throw his a tad too early or a tad too late. And that's something that you'll eventually have to control when it comes to things like this. So here I'll cancel a couple, throw one, cancel, see if that helps. And that throws. So for there, I think I may have psyched him out on a couple. So here
I missed my deny and I missed my last hit. And the other thing too that you'll notice is that he's actually much closer range to creeps than I am, and this actually makes it easier for him to cancel attacks. Oh my gosh, I'm actually not doing terrible.
Yeah, and so this is actually why Shadowfiend's so good to practice, maybe with a friend, is in that 1v1 situation, you eventually, like, see, there he was closer, his animation hit, and so that's going to be rewarding. You want to practice just with a couple stats, play Necromastery, and practice the mid lane timing. That way you can learn, like, maybe to CS very efficiently with psyching your opponent out, get into their head, and really play the mind game.
So you can already see that Happy has effectively controlled the lane momentum even though in creep block, and you can already see that all the creeps are actually up on his side, which is actually going to make it safer for him to do last hits. As you can see, it's really difficult for me to harass him at all, because if I harass him at this close of a range, I'm actually going to aggro the creeps towards me. So this actually makes things a lot more difficult. And my last hitting is probably giving some of you viewers cancer because it's so bad. The other thing you want to account for too is the amount of damage that your hero outputs. Generally, a lot of ranged heroes, when they start out, they don't output a whole lot of damage. So as a result, you gotta really get used to how low the creep's health gets before you hit.
Alright, and knowing your hero's limits is probably the biggest way to win mid lane. So here, I think I know Shadowfiend's limits fairly well, and I'm gonna go for like a kill on him. There we go. So that was 3 raises, and that's just something that comes with playing the hero a lot, practicing, knowing him as a comfort pick, which is actually immensely important to, if you want to improve, knowing the limits of how your hero plays.
Alright, so we're going to start the second part of the animation canceling video. And this time Happy's going to play Magnus and I'm going to play Bloodseeker. He's going to talk some more mechanics here.
Alright, so last time we looked at auto attack animations, and you want to psych your opponent out and put them between the 2-hit kill and the 1-hit kill window, between the creep's health and getting the CS. That's something that you really want to work on. Here in this video, we're going to look at spell canceling, and this is a very important skill for mid laners to have. It's also a psych factor. It puts the opponent on the defensive mindset that you want to be utilizing so you can get maximum damage, also get closer for CS. So this one, I'm going to pick Magnus, someone who's very well known for canceling his animation on the mid lane in order to gain a lane advantage, almost, to force the opponent to play on the defensive and try to dodge the shockwave angles.
Right.
So if you want to get into it, let's go.
Alright, so we got the game started here. Again, we're not going to actually creep block because we're going to focus on actually trying to utilize animation canceling here.
Alright, so this one I'll be canceling both spells and auto attack animation because a couple of Magnus's auto attacks do look like the shockwave animation. So if I'll spam a couple here in the mid lane so you can kind of like see what I'm going to be doing. You want to look out, so while I go in for a CS, how I want to play this in my mindset is I want to be throwing it out when he comes up close. So it looks like he's almost going to take guaranteed damage when he comes for it, the CS. And there I see he's going to probably go for that one on the hill. So you want to throw a few, psych him out, and preferably get 2 for 1 in the exchange. So here I'm going to probably get in a free right click. Go for maybe this one here. And right here, you see he's already on the back foot because of the amount of spell damage I've thrown at him. A couple auto attacks, and this puts him like severely behind. He's going to have to burn tangos. He's going to have to ferry himself out of south. And this is just from perhaps grabbing a couple extra CS. There I missed one, unfortunately. And anyway, the whole idea with playing the mid lane sometimes is really just to get into your opponent's head. Here, I see him in perfect angle to catch both 2 creeps, as well as a as well as get some damage in on him. And again, you want to play, like I mentioned last video, to your hero's strengths. Like, you want to learn his specific power spikes, especially if you get like an extra level over him. If you get an extra bit of XP, if you get free hits in, you want to be able to go for kills. And for those of you who watch the International, this is exactly what Sumail used to his advantage in order to win the mid lane in often unfavorable situations.
So let's do this. Let's move over to top rune area, and we're going to actually really show the difference between the is it shockwave and also your regular attack animation. So let's do an attack animation with attack. So this is an attack one. Okay. Oh, okay, so I can see what you mean when you say you listen.
They're slightly different, but you know, in mid lane, sometimes you see the hammer move and you want to go. You think it might be a CS, whereas like sometimes the hammer moves like that, and you don't know if it's a shockwave. And this really gets into people's heads because they want to dodge the damage. If they take too many free hits, they're gonna end up trading a life, right?
So when you're playing against, say, if you are a 2K player, I'm expecting a lot of 2K players don't know how to watch out for this type of stuff. This seems more of like a very high level skill. What would you suggest for 2K players? Should this still be utilized, or how would you utilize it in a mid-lane matchup?
When you go into playing a specific hero, wanting to play that one, trying to improve on him, or at the hero, what you want to be doing is you want to be thinking about scenarios where, let's go back to the mid lane and demonstrate. Let's see if there's a specific scenario where I get to end up using, let's see, like, this creep gets low right here. I know as Bloodseeker, you're going to try to Blood Rage yourself and try to comfort it, but that's going to give me the opportunity to get free hits off and then eventually go for the skewer kill.
Very nice.
Little opportunities like that are definitely ways you want to look out for. Is when they come for a CS, you want to play in the shoes of the other hero. They're going for CS, they're going for denies. You want to use that opportunity to predict where they're going to be and land skill shots. This is immensely important for things like Lina, players like Leshrac, who basically want to stun you before you even do anything, get free trades off, and that's something that helps you win the mid lane.
Nice. So that makes a lot of sense. So essentially, maybe not having to think so much about what the mid laner is, or watching when you should be denying. Maybe putting yourself in the mindset of the hero that you're playing against and expecting what you would do if you were with them is actually going to give you a lot more chance to predict exactly where everything's going to go and whatnot. So we see another kill right there. Perfect. All right, guys. So we're going to move on to our last subject. We're going to move on to our last topic, which is lane movement. Now, I'm not too knowledgeable when it comes to this, so we're actually going to let Happy explain it. But we're actually having another member here named Magic that will be playing the Dire side mid laner, while Happy plays Radiant side to really kind of show off how lane movement works. So go ahead, Happy.
Alright, so the whole idea with lane movement is you want to draw aggro against the other player by right-clicking them. If you're within 450 radius of a enemy creep, they will actually aggro onto you for 2 seconds and try to attack you. If you back off and not take attacks within 2 seconds, they'll re-aggro onto something closer to them. And that's something that you want to utilize to bring creeps closer to your side, put them on your side of the hill, or make it so if you are outside of that 450 radius range to get free auto attacks off on the enemy hero.
Perfect. So let's get this started. Do we both have our heroes? Perfect. Okay.
Alright.
So we're going to be seeing everything here from actually Happy's perspective as he plays the game. We're not going to be able to see Magic's, but Magic will be playing with a Lina on the opposite end. And we're really going to want to pay attention to how Happy is going to utilize everything we talked about earlier in this video, which is going to include creep blocking and attack animation canceling. Go ahead, Happy.
Alright, so I'm going to be trying the Arteezy block, trying to get everything on one side of the tower, just so it makes it easier to block. A lot of times in nowadays, mid laners will opt to go for the rune instead. So blocking is not quite used as much, but it's still useful to know in case maybe in the game other players request the rune or something like that.
So we can already see Happy actually utilizing the camera lock on the Queen of Pain, so that way it stays centered, and it's actually going to make it a lot easier for you to creep block, so you're not having to drag the screen to move the camera with you as you're moving along on creep blocking. There are a few pros out there that actually still drag the screen forward. I've seen Dendi do it. For me, I just personally like using the camera. It's just much faster and easier to learn. So you can actually see a fairly effective creep block here, as we can see most of the Dire's creeps are actually on the Queen of Pain's ledge here to kind of give her a nice advantage.
So there, I opted not to go for that last CS to put some pressure on the enemy hero and get free right clicks off. That way you put her at a lower HP, which puts her on the back foot, and that way you can play more offensively in the future.
So let's talk about this creep aggro that you mentioned earlier. So if you guys noticed right there, what happened was Happy actually clicked on Magic. Right when he clicked on Alina, you'll notice that the creeps that were instantly within that 450 yard radius actually moved towards to attack Happy. And that's what I mean by creep aggro. You can actually change the creep momentum to keep the creeps more on your side or actually behind the line of your own creeps, which makes it a little bit more defensive, and it's a lot easier to get those last hits in without being hit too much. Oh, nice dodge. So can you kind of explain what you're going through on your mindset here?
So here I saw that he had a salve, so I actually ferried myself out a salve just in case for future trades. He's also restoring mana, and I know mid lane's almost like a dynamic thing. So I know what he likes to do is line up a creep CS along with a Dragon Slave to get that efficiency. And so here I'm going to pull the creeps down to the lower part of the hill to make it so it's easier. And here she's used her combo, so I'm going to go in for a couple free auto attacks along with a dagger to put down some damage. That way you keep the aggression up. There I checked on her mana to see that she's only at 70 mana, so at most I know she has about one spell left in her. This means that I can probably go for the kill on the next set if I don't see her heal up. Nice. So there I see her popping a mana pot, and that's something that I'm going to have to watch out for. As well as I know she's also way on the backside, but she's also level 4, which means her power, like her damage, is probably going to match mine in the long run. So what I want to do in this situation is keep the creeps as close to my side as possible in order to deny her some XP.
So with that too, when you talk about lane movement, you have to be within, is it 900 yards in order to get any type of experience from creeps, denied or not?
I think it's 1200 actually.
1200. So one thing that's nice too then is if you're able to pull a creep wave towards your tier 1 tower as much as possible, it's going to make it very hard for the enemy mid laner to actually go towards you to do any last hits, because it's automatically going to aggro the tower. So the closer you can actually get the creeps to stay by your tower itself, you actually don't really have to focus as much on denying, because the enemy hero is going to be out of range to receive any experience already. So that's something I actually noticed that's happening right now as well.
So there I got a sneak peek of her going for the top rune there, and I know I was at higher mana and higher life, which means I can potentially go for the kill here. You see her landing a great light strike array. I'm going to give chase to make sure I get all the amount of attacks down. That poison dagger is putting her on, putting her slowed, and that actually ends up giving you the kill at the end. So the whole idea was to get a little bit aggro in the tri-lane, or not in the tri-lane, what am I talking about? Get a little bit aggro in the mid lane in order to put on that early aggression, read the enemy, know that she really likes to line up those Dragon Slaves, and use that to your advantage to try to pull out an advantageous mid lane through aggression.
So that line creep wave would also be really effective, say, against another mid like Templar Assassin, because their side blades do rely on a straight line of creeps in order to utilize maximum damage and range when she's actually going in for those last hits. So that's actually something that's a great thing that Happy mentioned, just really paying attention to the matchup and generally what are their best farming patterns. Line would also be another good example. You don't see line mid too often, but it can be done, and the most common way you'll see line actually utilize some of those last hits is by using Earth Spike. Alright guys, thank you so much again for watching. So we're going to go over a recap of today's lessons for today's episode of MMR Theory. So the very first topic we talked about was creep blocking. That's really utilizing techniques like camera blocking and micro clicking, so that way you can control the creep momentum to your side as much as possible. Secondly is really learning your animations for each different hero, so that way you can effectively get your last hits in and really knowing how to predict enemy movements as much as you can. And lastly, knowing how to control the lane movement, so how creeps move, how they aggro, how spells are going to target everybody, and that's really going to change your game. Once again guys, thank you so much for watching. This is Zero2Infinity from Crowd Control, and remember to subscribe.